Have you ever seen those polls where like a certain percentage of people are planning to vote for Trump and certain other percentage of people Biden and some are undecided and you think to yourself, uh, who is undecided at this point? Well, me. Until recently. I was going back and forth on it, but I made my decision. Hi, my name is Charlie, and I am an independent voter living in the state of Pennsylvania. I have voted for both Democrats and Republican in the same election. The last midterms, I voted Republican for Senate and Democrat for governor. And unfortunately, as someone who used to hate his guts, I have to eat my own words. Things have come to this point where I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm voting for Trump. And as of this time of recording, there are talks of Biden dropping out because of his infirmity. But really does not matter. No matter who the Democratic nominee, I'm going to vote for Trump. And you want to know why? Two reasons. I started to like Mr. Trump, and I am fed up with the Democratic Party. And I am looking to punish them. Let us start there. You guys must think that we are all stupid, or that we have the memory of a goldfish. How else can you account for this inartful, clumsy gaslighting to which you are subjecting us? I have been dismayed at the things that Democrats have been telling the public for these past few years that frankly makes no sense to me, especially the dictator talk. Oh, Trump is a threat to democracy, a danger to the republic. Members of mainstream media saying that this election might be our last, that Trump will never leave office if he is elected. Are you guys serious? Comparing Trump to Hitler, saying America is now headed towards a Christian theocracy, let's not kid ourselves. This is extremist rhetoric. Not only is this bereft of any attachment to reality, like a trigger warning, it also tends to create the very dangers it purports to forewarn. And that danger is a fissure in our system. This rhetoric that one half of the country wants to elect a dictator and that voting for you is the only way to save democracy, to me, has the same flavor as a closeted gay guy going off on homophobic rants. As in, I think you're projecting. But like a closeted gay guy saying something homophobic, you might not be aware that that's what you're doing. You might just be in denial. You might actually believe that you are saving democracy. But in denial, nevertheless, you are. And I think you are in denial because to accept the truth that you're hungry for power, that you are famished for dominion over the narratives that will make its way onto our history books, to accept that truth is to accept that you have become the very thing that you hate. You are a cliche in a superhero movie. In what universe would Trump become a dictator if he was elected? Not in this one. Well, here's the thing, okay? I do not believe that the election was stolen. Sounds to me like a kooky conspiracy theory. We've all gotten to know Trump's personality, right? He hates to lose or to admit fault. And so when he said that, I thought to myself, oh, this can't possibly be right, even before the courts ruled on this matter. In my opinion, it was a mistake for Mr. Trump to say that without definitive proof, just as Democrats, in retrospect, were wrong for saying Russian interference in 2016 swung the election in favor of Trump without having any actual proof to show for that incendiary contention. And I wish he would stop saying this. But here's the thing. They say that action speaks louder than words, right? You all remember when Trump was president. And I gotta tell you, what I saw was a far cry from the actions of a dictator. Think, for one, about his signature immigration policies. I remember when he tried to alter some of these federal regulations that raised the bar for green card applicants, the public charge rule, for instance. Under that rule, you would not have been eligible for a green card if you went on welfare as an immigrant and cannot support yourself. His administration went through the ordinary rulemaking process, the notice and comment period, and when challenged in the courts by state attorney generals of democratic states, his administration obeyed court orders to halt implementing his new rules. Same thing with the wall. In fact, even though much of his agenda was frustrated by litigation, as is the case with all modern presidencies, there was no single instance where his administration disobeyed a court order. Does that sound like a dictator to you? Do you have so little faith in our system of separation of powers and checks and balances that you actually think that Trump would rule for life? You're not living in the real world. And even as I make a distinction between speech and action and tell you that his past action does not indicate that he would become a dictator if he took office once again, I also question whether his speech, brash and populist as it may be, reflects the will of a dictator. Take January 6th, okay? You are all calling it an insurrection. And if Trump was a dictator in the making, that would have been the time for him to egg them on. Did he do that? Because what I remember was Trump releasing a statement, do not be violent. If you want to protest, do so peacefully. But then the media, even today, trying to hang Trump and Trump supporters vis-a-vis guilt by association. Do you disavow the actions of January 6th, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, you guys, give it a rest. Enough with this mass hysteria dictator talk. The public is not buying it. If Trump gets elected, he will leave after his term is up and America will keep chugging along. It's not going to turn into North Korea. My God. How about this? If Trump gets elected and does not leave after 4 years, I will buy the first person to comment, I told you so, a car, toy model. I challenge you to ask yourself whether this vote for me or you'll get a dictator talk is at least as damaging to the vitality of our system of government as saying the election was stolen. But the gaslighting does not just stop there. The Democratic Party has also been lying to us about Biden. Okay? So it was clear to me and a lot of folks from years back that Biden was not cognitively fit to hold office. How was it clear? Video footage. But what did we get for years from Democratic operatives? Oh, Biden is as fit as he ever was. He's Dark Brandon. He's Arnold Schwarzenegger after getting a pump in. It's Trump whose cognitive function is on the decline. What do we get from the media? The reason why you're thinking this might be because of ageism. The bias was clear. They were telling us for years, don't believe your own eyes. Oh, the crowd was not chanting F Joe Biden. They were saying, let's go Brandon. What do you call that? I don't know. Fake news? Hey, just a quick question. When did our news media lose its backbone and become the agitation and propaganda wing of the Democratic Party? Biden fumbling on the stairs of Air Force One or rambling incoherently? Oh, that's a cheap fake. Not a deep fake, but a cheap fake. It's real, but also not real, because it's taken out of context. Again, this is how little the Democratic Party thinks of the voting public. And then, after the most recent debate performance, when the obvious could no longer be denied without losing all credibility, the media's take is, oh, most recently, it seems like his health declined greatly. We should think about a new candidate. Are you serious? You let this drag on. Are you gonna take some responsibility for gaslighting the public for years up until shit hit the fan? Is any member of the media gonna get the sack after causing untold damage to the country by abusing the public's trust? Or what about Biden's handlers? No? Didn't think so. So, punishing the Democrats for this misbehavior, that's what I'm looking to do this election cycle. They think because they're opposing Trump, they can mistreat the voting public and get away with it. Nah. Treat us with respect. Don't treat us like we're stupid. Come November, I will vote a straight Republican ticket with Trump at the top. Funny thing about life, I would never have imagined saying something like this a few years ago. I probably wouldn't recognize my future self. I'd look at my future self and go, who the hell are you? But here we are. And so that leads me to talk about liking Trump. So here's the thing. When Trump first came onto the political scene in 2015, I hated his guts. I could not stand him. For years, I hated him. I was in college, I was young, inexperienced, and I could not understand why he was winning one Republican primary after another. And I was like, what do people see in him? I do not get it. And it took me a few years of living to realize, despite what I was being told over and over, what he's proposing, his agenda, it's not extreme at all. And that his rhetoric was only racist insofar as you projected racism into it. And why do that? Because you oppose his agenda. And then a few more years had to pass before I actually started liking him. So let me explain it to those of you who still don't see it, what I learned. First, with regards to his agenda that you consider to be extreme, you are editorializing. As in, there are ways to interpret that agenda to be rather plain, but you're injecting your belief system and hyperbole to make it sound extreme. Okay? Take child separation, for instance. When Trump began separating migrant children from their parents for detention, what do we hear? Oh, he's putting children in cages. That's what I also parroted mindlessly. But here's another way you could see it. When you break the law, you are subject to detention. And if you, the guardian, is under detention and there exists no one to take care of the minor, the state must step in and take custody of the minor. Happens all the time if you are a parent and you get arrested for a crime. Furthermore, if because you're caught crossing the border with a minor, the government is then obliged to release you into the interior, that creates rather a perverse incentive structure for minors to be used and abused as a human shield by some who only pretend to be the parents of the minors to get into the United States. That sure sounds different than he's putting children in cages. You tell me which sounds like a more reasonable interpretation and which one more hysterical. Entertain the possibility that his views, in lockstep with a huge portion of the population, sounds extreme to you because perhaps, just maybe, you hold extreme views yourself. Sweetness of a mild variety tastes bitter to the sugar addict. And then comes his rhetoric. Oh, he's a racist, they say. It's so funny. I'm almost 30 now. I spent half of my 20s in school and the other half out in the real world. I went to a great college, an elite law school, rubbed shoulders with some really impressive people. But on the other hand, the other half of my 20s, I had also worked in a food court, as a bank teller, worked as a server for many years across a few Korean restaurants. And I'm still working part-time as a server. And I gotta tell you, the way people talk between these two worlds is night and day. And what I mean by that is, they say, how the hell does Trump appeal to the working class? He's a billionaire born with a silver spoon in his mouth. Well, here's a thing I didn't know in my younger years. The way he talks, the things that he says that you think are unfathomably outrageous, you should know this is how the working man talks. You would know had you ever held the job of the working man. The comments that would compel the upper crust to clutch their pearls are said by rote by the working man. And guess what? Most people are not looking to be offended anywhere and everywhere. Most people see the reality of intergroup differences with regards to race or sex and treat it as a matter of fact. Most people need not self-censor to keep up appearances in order to hobnob within the Hunger Games capital we call polite society. And when you say that Trump is being racist for saying something that the ordinary person would say, the ordinary person takes note, for they know what's in their own heart. They think to themselves, it's not hateful to acknowledge reality. They want to punish Trump for speaking the truth. Take the thing he said when he first ran for office almost a decade ago. He was talking about Mexicans crossing the border. At that point in time, the illegal immigrants that were coming in were mostly from Mexico. Nowadays, we have people from all over the world pouring into our country from the southern border, thanks to Mr. Biden. Trump was saying, look, Mexico is not sending their best. They're bringing in drugs. They're bringing in crime. They're raping people. And some, I assume, are good people. Well, yeah, it's the truth. But at the time, the media was saying, oh, he's calling Mexicans rapists and criminals. It took me years to realize, no, that's not what he's saying at all. You're just reading into it what you want to. What he's saying is, if you have an unchecked border, you have no idea what kind of bad elements are pouring in. And by the coincidence of the circumstances, most people that were pouring in happened at the time to be Mexican. There's got to be some good people coming in, but also bad people. And we should be worried about the bad. There's nothing racist about what he said. Or take the Kung Flu remark during the pandemic. Yeah, it was racial. But it was also a joke. It was a pun. I was offended at the time. I don't think I would be now. I think it was the environment I was in. I was in a school with a bunch of woke people. Had I been at the restaurant, I think I would have been laughing at it with all the other Korean servers. Why do I think that? Because we laugh at things like that all the time. And so the guy can tell jokes. Yeah, people like that. Makes him relatable despite the huffing and puffing of the uppity idiots that appear on national television and act offended on behalf of the country. So it took me a minute, but he won me over. That's my guy for the election. What you see as hateful, some people see as truths. Now, right around now is the time that some people go, hey, bootlicker, how does that boot taste? Joke's on you, because I have a shoe fetish. Just kidding. Sort of. But really, you're an idiot. This is what happens. When any racial minority expresses support for Trump or anything conservative, that's the kind of comments they get from other racial minorities and liberal white people. But that's the real racism, if you think about it. The idea that you have to, because of the color of your skin, support certain policies, candidates, or way of thinking, that's textbook racism. Can we cut that shit out? Oh, I'm the bootlicker. The Democrats' DEI initiatives are foreclosing for our young Asian students the possibility of earning a seat in selective high schools through their own merit, replacing our young students with racial minorities they deem to be more deserving. And I'm the bootlicker. What was that saying about pot and kettle? I've been saying this for a while now, you guys. The woke left is not our friend. They are the enemy of the Asian people. Why? Because our achievement in these past few decades, surpassing whites in many metrics, is a pebble in the shoe of their narrative that a white supremacist system is to blame for others lagging behind, for which they claim affirmative state action is the sole remedy. Not true. The problem is pathological culture within these other groups. That is something no government action can solve. Look, I'm surrounded by people who hate Trump, and there are people I love dearly who still cannot stand Trump. And just because I changed my mind, I'm not gonna now go after them and say, how can you support Joe Biden? They have their reasons for opposing Trump and supporting Biden, and vice versa. I have my own. And my love for them has not changed one bit, and I don't think their love for me has either. I feel pretty secure in my relationships. That's what living in a healthy, vigorous, free society is supposed to be about. No one side has all the answers all the time. I really believe that. You want to turn down the temperature? I say, don't look to Trump. Look to the people who say that a vote for Trump is a vote for fascism, or that this election might be the last. I'm gonna vote for Trump because you're saying things like that. I resent it. And hey, I am open to voting Democrat in the future, as I have in the past, but only if the candidate in question renounces explicitly and unequivocally the woke left, whom I hate. And you never know. The future, depending on how things unfold, I may not like Trump later. The point is, what I learned from hating to now liking Trump is, you should be steadfast in your beliefs. Commit to them. Therefrom the vigor of life will flow. But be open to the idea that your future self will not be the same as your current self. In fact, that's preferable. So embrace it. That signals growth. You will experience growing pains. The guilt that you feel that you are turning into someone whom your former self does not recognize. And people who don't welcome the change will call your growth regression. But I've also learned all of that fades. Time heals all wounds. And you'll grow stronger. Anyways, that is to say, at this point in time, I like Mr. Trump. And just as importantly, I am looking to punish the Democrats. And since I've committed to this course of action, I will so advocate for it publicly. I encourage all of you like-minded independents, especially in Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, to do the same. This election cycle, punish the Democrats for putting our lives in jeopardy by allowing millions to flow in from all over the world through the southern border under their gate-kept name of compassion. Punish the Democrats for gaslighting the public about a non-existent threat to the Republic so they may remain in power. Punish the Democrats for having lied to us about Biden's infirmity for years, only to have acknowledged what the public has known all along too late in the game. And most importantly, punish the Democrats for allowing themselves to be a safe haven for the far-left woke elements within our society who genuinely dislike the country, are chanting death to America on this soil, and thirst for its destruction, one meritocratic system at a time. What can I say? How else can I end the video other than to say, go America, and let's go Donald Trump.